Boy, Bear. So Bear and I just finished shooting a sunrise scene and we're on our way home. I figured I would use this drive as an opportunity to share some thoughts about gear. I get questions about gear often. I usually feel like my answer to gear questions is usually disappointing for people. I do want to bring a little bit of clarity to one of the things I said in my 7 things I've learned from 20 years of filmmaking video. Gear matters way less than the industry wants you to think. As a business owner, I think that that's the temptation, is to want to buy new gear thinking it's going to get you more work. And it's probably the opposite. You need to get more work to justify getting more gear. For me, gear plays the part of a tool to get the story from the real world onto screen. And so there's a lot of ways to do that. And, you know, to kind of dance around this analogy of cars, it's kind of like, what car is best for you? And the reality is, for most things you would do with a car, any car is good enough for you. Most people just need a car to go like to and from the grocery store and run basic errands and do these things. And then, you know, you start adding these other variables like kids and pets and off-road access for adventure and travel and camping, and there's like all these little variables you start adding into your list of needs, and then that's going to start narrowing down what kind of car is going to best suit, you know, what you're out to accomplish. And picking a camera is very similar. And I don't think that there's really one perfect camera for everything, but there's definitely a lot of Honda Accords of cameras where it's just like, this is an everyday, all day, last forever, serve most purposes kinds of cameras. But I just want to speak a little bit to some of the things I consider when buying a camera. For me, the first things I consider when buying a camera, number one is, does it shoot 10-bit 422? The second thing is, what is the boot up time? I don't care how amazing and beautiful the image is. If I've missed the moment, then I missed the moment. I used to have a Red and it took 18 seconds to boot up, and I used to just like curse the name of Red, and I watched my moment just fleet by. Fleet by? Is that a thing? Yeah. Fleeting moment? It fleeted by? Yeah. I loved the image of the Red, and if I, you know, got it turned on in time to capture something, then I loved it. The large majority of the footage I shoot is more in the cinema verite style of shooting. It's kind of this like from the hip, candid, very raw, and what happens, and that's the real moment. And it's not to say I never direct a scene or that I don't try to guide things to happen the way I want them to, but you just can't fake the real moment happening in real time. So anyway, back to my list. The third thing that I consider, the ergonomics of a camera, how it feels in my hand and how quickly and smoothly I can operate buttons. For me, the perfect camera is that you can change every function on the camera while shooting handheld, while not shaking the camera, which I know is kind of a tall order, but I got used to that workflow in the Canon 1D. So the way that it's built, I mean, I'm holding it and my thumb can literally operate the entire camera and my left hand can support the whole thing. And I can make, you know, adjustments to my shots and the footage doesn't end up shaking and forcing me to like reconfigure my hands around the camera to do all these things. Everything's within reach. And I feel like I've been spoiled, you know, running that camera so much that now the ergonomics of some of these other cameras just, I don't know, don't feel right. And then of course, the other main factor that I consider when buying a camera is cost. If REs were cheap, then everyone would have one. Like it's a big investment to go buy an RE or buy a Red or, you know, some of these other high-end cinema cameras. But the fact is, like, those are kind of the high-end sports car, and it's for a very specific style of shooting that calls for some specific specs and tools, and the large majority of the client work that I work on don't require that level of performance, and it would cost a lot and more or less blow through any kind of profit that I can expect through the year to acquire a camera like that. And so I think one of the hardest and most impressive skills to refine is aligning your investments to align the work that you're doing to then ultimately lead to profit in the end. And so there's kind of this dance that needs to happen when selecting what gear you're gonna actually buy. The beautiful thing about gear though, it's really easy to rent pretty much any camera you want. And I know there's a lot of high-end cinematographers that don't own their own gear and they just rent whatever camera package is best for the job. And then there's other people that are, I think myself included, much more powerful and effective in a professional setting to have their own kit, and you hire them and their kit and they just go, and so they're ready to go on a moment's notice. So that's something I guess to consider. As a production company though, when I had the Red, I reserved that camera more specifically for like music videos and short films, and interviews were fine too, but basically things where it was a slower pace and I had the opportunity to set things up the way I wanted, and run takes. Like, running takes versus shooting scenes to me is a completely different workflow. Yeah, those are my thoughts on gear. Say bye, Bear. There's a good boy. He likes it when I open the window. Oh. All right, bye.